Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Worth It Then Worth It Now, a segment where I look at games that are out of season but generally speaking on sale. It's a little bit different at the moment, being that the Steam Summer Sale is on for the next, 2 weeks or so. So this kind of gives me a license to just cover videos of whatever I feel like, since anything you can think of is pretty much on sale. So today we're going to look at PowerWash Simulator. It's one of those games that I would call it dangerous. When you install it and you play it, blink and it will be 3 AM. In fact, that's exactly what happened to me last night. I just zoned out or zoned in. I guess it depends how you really want to look at it. But it's one of those games where at the pitch, on the outside looking in, watching this video, you might not really be sold on it. Now, I can understand that. Sure, I was in that space as well. I'm also incredibly skeptical of anything with the word simulator in it, because it is essentially a shovelware indicator for, generally speaking, the rule with Steam releases as opposed to the exception. But this sits firmly in the exception, and strangely enough, it was actually bankrolled by Square Enix. Very bizarre. And I can only assume they kind of threw a lot of money at it. This is what happens when the AAA industry wades into the simulator indie space, and there's a reason this thing has overwhelming Steam reviews. It's incredibly polished, but it's not like it's got some unnecessary complexity layered on top of it. It is still very much feeling like an indie game with a narrow scope. I talk about it all the time, the idea of taking an appropriate bite of a pie as a developer. Most developers start out in their garage, just making a passion project, and they have absolutely no concept of scope creep or general project management. And that's why you end up with these games in early access for bloody 6 years that go nowhere, run out of money, and then fail. This game is tight and designed in such a way that it understands exactly what the core loop is, and it stays well and truly in its lane without overreaching. And it's just roundly an excellent experience. And look, I was playing it and one of my mates jumped on and, we were just hanging out and that's what I was playing, and it turns out there's a co-op mode on this. I didn't really know anything about it. I'm happy just to power wash on my own. I feel like most people probably do. So he picked that up and we just jumped into a co-op career session. There's all these other modes, and it's interesting. The career is 1 to 2 players, but these other, scenarios, I'm not 100% sure what they're called, but they go up to 6 players, and I gotta wonder how overwhelming that project must be. And it's both, overwhelming and kind of exciting at the same time. I'd love to see how the end game goes with this game. So yeah, we're just sort of chipping away together, and you earn money from doing these odd jobs that get sent to you, and you get a little bit of agency. You'll have a couple to choose from at a time. You go in, you clean them up, and you get paid essentially per little tiny tick box. Every little thing that you clean, you'll get $1 at a time. But ultimately, this is completionist bait. You want 100% 5-star the level and clean up everything, every inch that you possibly can. And early levels are like cleaning up your van. It's a pretty good tutorial kickoff. And when you do complete it, you get this sort of stop motion video playback of you cleaning the environment from a fixed camera. And it's very clever and it's quite rewarding. And you'll earn money, and through that you buy cosmetics, but you can also buy different attachments to the end of your hose and all that. You can pretty much buy everything pretty quickly, though I think there are higher tier, higher quality hoses. There are consumables you can buy in the form of soap for, different surfaces. You might be cleaning brickwork or stone or multi-purpose or wood, and you get the appropriate cleaning agent for that, and it goes pretty fast, but it is very good at softening up the sort of tough stains that you have to spray down. And that's what we were speculating about, because this is one of those games I haven't had the opportunity to put a humongous amount of time in, but it feels like as the game goes on, the difficulty measure would be larger scope and scale. Speaking specifically from my multiplayer run, we were on a children's playground, and we essentially, you start in that corner and I start in that corner, and it's quite a large project. So we assume that it just gets larger and you probably get tougher stains. It's something we noticed on a previous level where I had to clean a barbecue, and around the bottom of it, it seemed like they were grease stains or something like that, and you really had to ratchet up how you scrubbed them. Anyway, look, let's just talk about the moving parts a little bit. Essentially, it's just you and your pressure washer, and you can change the nozzles and they represent, you know, wider but softer impact. So you can have like a first pass with a pretty gentle spray, but it covers a lot of area, going all the way down into really narrow nozzles that, you know, are for very specific tricky stains. Something really interesting is you can press, well, C, I was playing mouse and keyboard, I'm sure there's something different with thumbsticks, where you can change your mouse movement from camera head free movement, I don't know what else to call it, but normal movement in a first person shooter, to fixed camera, but you're now controlling the nozzle within that space. And it's weird at first, but then you realize it's like the way to play as well. And in amidst all of this, you can pull up the stains by pressing tab, and it has this bright light overlay that fades quite quickly, and you use that to sort of rut out and figure out where you've missed. But yeah, look, from start to finish, that entire loop is just incredibly satisfying. And again, I was just going to cover this on my own. I was playing it for B-roll, just lonely old me, because it's a fun game on its own, but it works quite well multiplayer. Granted, it's probably not the most chatty you're going to be. How do I put this? Because there are games that you play and you hang out with the boys in Discord, right? They're not super sweat fests and hardcore, and often there are even single player games. You know, RimWorld's an old favourite of mine where a bunch of us will play RimWorld, but we'll all sit in the Discord talking in our own individual instanced games. This was a little bit different in that, you know, we're in the game together and we're talking a bit, but you've kind of got a deafening pressure washer going, and the nature of the work, you've got, you know, you're biting your tongue, lips out, getting the bloody hose in between the brickwork and laying down on your stomach, looking underneath tables and that sort of stuff, trying to find out the last little stain. So it's a game where you can hang out and work together, but you're not necessarily going to be chatting non-stop, because it requires that specific part of your animal brain to kind of zero in and focus, and you don't really talk so much about what pizza you had for dinner or whatever. Very unusual as far as these sort of experiences go, but still cool. A cool way to hang out with a mate, and I can only assume, you know, getting 6 people working on a massive project must be wild, and it's very unique experience, single player and multiplayer, and you can hear the grin on my face. And like, even we were working on, you know, a house, and my mate cordoned off the pond in this backyard, and he was really working hard on that for like 10 minutes straight, and eventually he was burnt out from that. So we just rotated out, you know, you go clean the barbecue or the cubby house or whatever, and I'll come in and a fresh set of eyes, and you know, things that he missed I saw because of exactly that. Anyway, PowerWash Simulator. A great example of when you actually bring in a AAA sort of hand on the shoulder from that publishing perspective to police and realize a basic simulator loop that's crack on its own, but to just keep on project and create this wonderful product that's polished from top to bottom without being overly complex. There's a whole bunch of DLC, which, you know, I could absolutely see me getting into once I cleared through all the main stuff in the main game. It's all extra levels and scenarios and that sort of stuff, which is pretty cool, and I think that's perfectly reasonable as support for after release. So yeah, I mean, look, it released in 2022. I don't think it went early access. In fact, God, it really stretched me. It might have been shadow dropped, or at least went 1.0 straight out of the way. This is all speculation, it's been a while. But it's 3 years since it came out, and I would hope that some of these AAA industries that are really struggling with their public-facing image and pushing quadruple A games and all that, like, it's been long enough that maybe we'll see some AAA other versions of simulator, tight little indie experiences coming out. I mean, this is very wishful thinking, but that development window's been long enough that we might see things like that pop up. Or even more things out of Square Enix. They clearly gave this a go in the first place. Maybe they were just really shocked at the success, who can say. I'm pretty sure they just announced the sequel to this, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, more of this. This would be great if the AAA industry could at least, even if it's a side project, I doubt this was their main development effort, you know, do these little side projects, these little indie attempts, but from an established entity with throw around money. And I really think something like this is a recipe for success that could be mass produced, and should be. Everyone would enjoy that at all levels. Anyway, check it out yourself. It's on sale because of the Steam Summerfest. Might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.